Welcome to Dear Tay, You Got This, the show where transformation meets practical action. Join us each week as we dive into powerful tools and insights for leveling up your life. If you're ready to embrace change and explore the many sides of growth, you're in the right place. Our signature Trinity segment keeps gratitude, achievements, and dreams front and center, while every episode ends with a weekly challenge to spark real life transformation. Tune in, take action, and get inspired to live your best life. Hi, everybody. Tay here with Dear Tay, You Got This. This week's episode, I believe we're on episode 25 or something of that nature. I've been doing this podcast since the beginning of June, and it's starting to become winter, and I'm ready for hibernation. I don't know about some of you guys, but usually around this time, I get to that point where I'm like, okay, things are going cool with my business. I'm moving and grooving, and things are flowing. And really, at the end of the day, I just kind of just really want to take a break. So I am starting to pre-record a lot of podcasts. And I already have some in the wings that I'm going to be pushing out and putting on to YouTube and scheduling early, so that over the next few weeks we don't miss anything. But within the background, I'm still going to be recording, still going to be very active in regards to my podcast, but I'm excited to kind of take a step back and reevaluate and look at everything and make sure that my mission with my podcast and everything regarding my business is aligned. So I'm super excited to be here as always. I had this week so far starting has been really good. The reason why is because last Thursday was my birthday. And one of the things that some people know about me, but most people probably don't, is that my birthday is basically a national holiday. For many years, especially when I started college, on my birthday every year, unless I had a quiz or an exam, I did not go to classes. I did not go to work. I called off of work because I had time to, so I would call off of work on my birthday. There was one year where I had started at the prosecutor's office. I started in like September, and that was like 2 months before my birthday, and I didn't have the time to take it off. So I just ended up staying at work and doing 30-second dance parties, which actually became a hit. I ended up having, I think, I want to say like 20 or so people coming into my office on my birthday doing 30-second dance parties to whatever song that I chose for that year. And it was very, very nice. I even got my boss one time to come in and do it, which was amazing. Um, but because of that, I got a chance to hang out with my boyfriend all weekend and really take some time out for not only us, but for me as well. Because I had been working so much, not only with my full time job, but with my business, that I was just like, I really need a brain break. So I literally took a break over the weekend, and it was super duper nice. And last night, when we were in Columbus, we went and seen one of his friends, and we were sitting there talking. And one of the things that came up in conversation was this conversation about peace. Um, and I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I'm actually most likely somewhere in the future, in the near future, going to have him on the podcast. But when it came to peace, what we were talking about was like getting into relationships and like going out and creating relationships, whether it be platonic or romantic. And those relationships, like going out there and doing that, was really inviting people into your world. And if you're in this mode of like healing and transforming and growing, like most of us are, when you start bringing other people into your world, you want to also make sure that they're doing some sort of growth or some sort of healing process as well, so that it doesn't feel like those people are disturbing your peace. And I was like, yo, like that is so great, because in 2023, that was really and actually before that, actually, that was one of my biggest things with people in general, like platonic and romantic partners in my life. It was really like, if you are not creating a sense of peace in my life, what are you doing here? And I wasn't trying to be funny. I wasn't trying to be mean or malicious. It really was just that I was learning how to cope with a lot of things that were going on in my life. And in order to do that, I needed to have a sense of peace that surrounded myself and the things that I had in my life. And when I went into 2023 and I wasn't drinking and life was really just going about however it wanted to, one of the things that I really had to make sure that stayed intact was my peace. Because in reality, that's the only thing that I had to look forward to amongst the growth and the transformation that I was going through. But it was the one thing that I was like, I have never had this before. This could definitely contribute to my happiness, and I want to be able to grab this for myself. But I also didn't want people coming into my life and trying to shake that piece up, whatever that looked like. Especially when now we feel like we're all in a snow globe and it feels like somebody every 10 seconds is just like shaking it just so that they can see the snow flurry all over the place. And really what it's like to not have peace is it's really nerve-wracking. It's one of those things where you kind of sit back and you're like, this could be better, right? So it literally having that conversation last night with him and then some events that happened today, I realized like I'm so glad that I have a sense of peace for myself, because if I didn't, I would definitely be off kilter all the time. Like my energy would be off, like conversations would be off, like just everything. Like it would just be wild. So just a little background on what transpired this weekend. I had a client appreciation party that I went to for my real estate agent, the person who helped me buy my house. And she was like, hey, we're having this thing. We're having a photography studio. Come get your picture taken. Come hang out, whatever, whatever. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. So me and my boyfriend, we, got on our little outfits. We were all cute in our black and red and white. We went to go take pictures, and while we were there, I had the opportunity to get a gift card. And to get extra entries into the gift card raffle, I just had to put up some reviews online. So it was basically the same review on Google and on Zillow, just to show, like, I really appreciated her help when I was buying my house and all of that. So the next morning, I wake up to a text message from her, and she's like, hey, you want a gift card? What's your new address? So I can send it to you. And I gave her my address. And she was like, oh, okay. I thought that you had moved for some reason. I'll go ahead and have that sent out. And I was like, oh, okay. Yep. No, I've been here for the last 7 years, like still going. And then she hit me with, hey, I probably should have addressed this rumor when I heard it, but you were going through your divorce and I didn't want to intrude. But I heard that your house caught fire. And I just assumed that you didn't live there anymore. And my response to that was like, really? Well, isn't that an interesting rumor? And I left it at that because I realized in the state that I'm in right now, like that does not affect me. I do feel like had I had this happened years ago, like a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, maybe, I definitely would have been like, oh, who said that? Where'd you get that information from? What's going on there? And I realized over time that being in that sense of drama that goes around like a rumor, right? Before would have been so enticing to me. Like I remember being in college and really wanting to like create drama for no good God reason. Like I literally remember creating drama for myself when I was in college. I went to college from age 17 to like 22. Yes, 22. And I remember like causing drama in college just because it was fun, just because I needed something to do, just because I was bored. Like it was one of those things where I just did it just because. So if I had heard somebody said a rumor around me, I'd be like, well, let me go ahead and like, do some digging and all of this. And now I'm like, I don't need that kind of validation. I don't need to have that particular awareness of what other people are saying in the background about me. And it's so funny because I was curious, but then I also was like, I don't really care who said it. I mean, I have an inkling about who said it, but at the same time, it was like, I don't really care about why it was said or what. But I just thought it was very interesting that she brought this to my attention. And the first thing I thought was just like, oh, well, that's interesting. And then I just left it at that. And I feel like that's what being an adult is about, which is kind of weird when you think about it. But it made me think that situation, along with many others, have made me think about what peace is and that sense of happiness and joy that I've created for myself to where I don't need the additional drama, the additional words and, you know, things that other people need to fill their lives, to feel like they're alive. I don't need that kind of activity. And I will tell you that it did start when I stopped drinking. And it's really interesting how things kind of play out, right? I talk about a lot and talked about a lot within my self-care series about how drinking was a coping mechanism for me. So no matter what was going on in my life, whether it was somebody talking shit about me, whether it was somebody just um, not being there for me as I felt that they should be, or if it was just a situation where I was just upset or sad or whatever, I would use drinking as a mechanism for me to cope. It was a way for me to get away from the current situation, to deal with it, to talk about it, to communicate. Whatever it was, I was avoiding doing that by drinking. And I realized that after I stopped drinking, what ended up happening was I had to now go head first into a lot of these issues. Now, don't get me wrong. I did not go after every single fight that came to me. Like that was not a thing. But what I did was I went to and took on the things that I knew that I could handle. So even when it came down to breaking up with my ex, like there were specific things from the time that I had stopped drinking to the time that I broke up with this person. There were things in there that I had started to pay attention to, that I started taking stock of. And it was like I was doing a constant inventory of the people and things in my life. And I realized that this is kind of fishy. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't make me feel good. And it took me a couple of months to really figure out what that was. And in reality, it was like the drinking, I was no longer drinking, so I wasn't numbing anymore. Cool. Also, not cool, because that meant that I felt every emotion behind what was happening. So even if I got angry about a situation, there was no way for me to deal with it unless I actually sat with my emotions. I journaled or I called a friend and vented or whatever it was, as long as it was not drinking to cover it up. Now, being able to finally get clarity in your life is also a sense of peace. And that was one thing that I felt like was missing in my life because I was covering up all of my emotions, even the happy emotions, the sad emotions, the happy emotions, the angry emotions. Like I was covering all of those emotions up and not being able to really feel what it felt like to live in my life, to be in my body. And that was an issue within itself and something that I also had to take stock of. But at the same time, I definitely had to sit back and think about what is peace to me. I just finished the third draft of my book, of my second book, and it's out to the beta readers right now. And in one of the chapters, I talk about peace and creating peace, nurturing this era of peace, and what that actually looks like. And I even go as far to say that most of us have no idea what that even looks like. Like, if you were to sit back right now as I'm talking to you and think about what peace looks like to you in your current situation. Think about it whether you have kids, a partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a they friend, or whatever, right? Um, your husband, wife, spouse, like whatever. Think about how your life is right now and what peace looks like to you. And I can guarantee you that it's going to look different for every single person that's in this, that's listening to this podcast. And here's why. My sense of peace I have several senses of peace now that I understand what my peace is, but my initial thought about peace is being in nature, camping out, not having my phone near me, and just being. For somebody who has kids, it could be actually taking a bath with no interruptions, listening to music, or reading a book. It could be taking a vacation for someone who works a lot. It could be going on a cruise. Whatever that sense of peace looks like to you, it's going to look different for each person. And once you figure out what that peace looks like, and you're like, okay, how do I gain that peace? And that's basically what I was doing. I was looking at how I could not only gain control over my actions and what I was doing in my life, but also how can I gain peace as well? And surprisingly enough, one of those things was by not creating drama. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, I have had my sense of creating drama in the past. I will say that I was very naive and just doing things. I didn't really care. I would say I didn't really care about other people's feelings. I did, but not really. If for whatever reason it, slighted me in some way, I was just like, F it, I'm gonna do it anyway. It didn't matter to me I wasn't looking at what peace looked like then. But as I got older and I started to think about like what I wanted my relationship to look like, being married, what I wanted that to look like, my relationships after being married, what I wanted those to look like, things like that, I realized that there's a sense of peace that comes with being peaceful and being happy and feeling like I actually love my life. And for some reason, like the funny thing is, I'm not upset that it took me to stop drinking to figure that out. But I think what I'm sad about is what did I miss in those years that I was covering up all of the pain, all of the sadness, all of the happiness? Like, what did I miss? So, in reality, it's all right, this is my peace. What does that look like? It looks like not being quick to anger for me. It looks like picking my battles. It looks like not saying the things that I know that I want to say. I just got through recording the throat chakra meditation and session for the Journey to Energetic Alignment workshop. And when I tell you that the throat chakra is all about communication, it's all about speaking your truth, it's all about showing up creatively. That speaking my truth part, let me tell you, was definitely loud and proud. I'm gonna say like 3 years ago. Like if you slighted me in any way, you were going to know about it. And now I find that it takes way too much energy for me to explain to somebody how they fucked up. It takes too much energy for me to explain to somebody how you should be taking accountability for the actions that you did and why I'm not talking to you because of X, Y, Z, a factor. That's just too much. So I now oftentimes choose peace over chaos. Now, for me, it is not easy. I seen a TikTok a couple weeks ago, and probably not even a couple weeks ago at this point. It's probably like a week ago, maybe. I seen this TikTok. I actually sent it off to people, and it was of this woman, and she was just like, "Yeah," she was like, "Sometimes I just want to crash out. I just want to do the things. I just want to say the stuff that I've always wanted to say to the people." And then what ended up happening was she was talking about an ex of hers and how she wanted to send this like, "Yeah, you fucked up" text. And she was like, she wasn't sure if she should do it, but then she did it. And she was like, "I blocked this person on all social media. I blocked them from my phone number. Like they can't get in contact with me. Whoop, 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 whoop." And she was just like, "I just want to go ahead and send this text message and then block them again." And that's exactly what she did. She created another post, showed us the text message that she sent them, and then she blocked them again. Just so that she could get off her chest what she needs to get off her chest. And it was so funny because I was like, "Yo, like, you have no idea how often I want to just be like, this is what you did. This is where you had me fucked up." I know that probably majority of you have those moments where like, "Ooh, you lucky today is Tuesday, because if it were Wednesday, I would be going off." And I listened to that and I was talking to a friend of mine and I was telling them, like, "Yo," I was like, "you have no idea how many times I want to do these things. I want to like step out, say some shit, just be like, and go off." But one of the things that I always do is I come back, I sit back, I think about it, I think about what it is that I'm putting on the line, what it is that I am possibly losing by doing said thing. And I rethink it and I rethink it. And then I angrily go write in my journal. I go and write about it in my journal. And then maybe I don't let it go. Maybe it festers for a little bit because I can't get it off my chest. But then I realize that I also look at it as, what is it that I could have lost had I done this thing? Now, in this particular situation with this woman on TikTok, there was nothing to lose in this particular situation. There's nothing to lose. I have a couple situations like that. Like, there's nothing to lose by me saying something. But I was talking to my friend and I told him, I said, I could do that and get some like little hit of dopamine, but is it going to put me at peace? Am I going to get satisfaction, like complete satisfaction, out of sending that message? Probably not. It's gonna feel real good in the moment. I'm telling you, it's gonna feel real good in the moment. But later on, am I gonna sit back and think about, what did that accomplish? And that's kind of where I sit with it when it comes to chaos and peace. This particular situation may not cause more chaos, but does it put my spirit at peace? That's how I always think about it. So before we go into this next part, we're going to be trying something new today, guys. We're going to be talking about a couple of things that I have going on, and doing some little and putting and shouting out some things. So the first thing I'm going to do is, if you've been listening to my podcast, usually at the beginning of my podcast, I talk about Chakra Wonders. Chakra Wonders is a company based out in Arizona. A good friend of mine owns the company, and they have all kinds of wonderful metaphysical things on their website, whether it is mugs, book bags, posters. I even have a pair of socks. And these are the root chakra socks, which I had to get because if you don't know, I have about 300 pair, probably, yeah, at this point. I have about 300 pairs of socks. Um, Counted, there have been 234 pairs of socks. It's probably easy to say that I have over 300 pairs of socks hanging out in my house. All right. And I had to get a pair of the root chakra socks. And then I also got one that also has that says all chakras or chakra socks. Yeah. And I absolutely love the fit of these. They're super comfy. And the fact that they have the chakras on them also made them really like they really caught my eye. And I was very happy to get a link from them to be able to share with you all 15% off of any purchase that you do on their website. So you just go to www.chakrawonders.com. And when you're checking out, you put in coupon code DEARTE, that's DEARTE. And and when you put that code in, you get 15% off your purchase. Now, the one thing that I also did when it came down to Chakra Wonders, I had talked with the owner, who again is a good friend of mine, and I was telling them how I was going to be doing podcast inspired paintings. And right now, there is a Tay Youngblood collection on their website. You can get 3 paintings that I have, and I'll go ahead and put them in here somewhere, however they, turn up. But you can actually get those as wall posters from chakrawonders.com as well. So I'm super excited about that because that also means that I get to share my art with the world, not just from this podcast, but people who go to the website in general also are able to see that collection and pull things from there as well. So go to chakrawonders.com, type in coupon code Dear Tay, and you will get 15% off. My very first book that I wrote is called Tainted: Overcoming the Stigma of Sexual Trauma. But this beautiful book you can actually get on Amazon. And I'm going to put the links of both Chakra Wonders and the Amazon link for this book into the description. But Tainted: Overcoming the Stigma of Sexual Trauma is my story of overcoming sexual trauma and the methods that I use to do that. As my first book, this actually took me 6 years to write because it was a very heavy book to write. But I'm so excited to be able to share this with you guys. And if you want a copy, you can go ahead and get it from Amazon. And if you want a signed autographed copy, I do have a link for that as well. So I can go ahead and put that in the chat as well. So now back to this peace talk. Let's get back to this peace talk, all right? So I want you to think about a situation that really ruffled your feathers and you're like, that was really just ridiculous the way that this situation happened. And I want you to think about how you reacted to that particular situation. And I'm not talking about the peace, because again, some of us are not at that peaceful place yet. So I want you to think about how you reacted to it. All right. And I'm going to tell you a little story. Once upon a time, I received an email from somebody who wanted to apologize, or so they said. But the email did not come off that way. The email came off very abrasive. It came off very attacking. And I definitely, after reading this email, I was like, now hold up. Because at this point, I had stopped drinking for only 6 months. So I was definitely still in that phase of try me and I might drink. I was already like getting angry and sad and all of these things and wanting to drink anyway. So I was definitely in that point of like, I will crush you. And one of the things that I did was I actually I literally sat and I read this email like 10:30 in the morning, and I couldn't do anything about it until later. So that's the first thing. The first thing I did was I sat on it. It was done purposefully, trust me. So I sat on it all day and I let my brain fume about it. And then I would distract myself with work, and then I let my brain fume about it because I wanted to go in on this email. And by the time I got home, I realized that it is not worth it to like mess up the piece that I had created over the last 3 months after doing my chakra alignment to go in on this email. So I sat down at my computer and I started to type this very nice curated email. I think I got through half a sentence. The first sentence, I got halfway through the sentence and I had to stop typing and take a break. And the reason was because I felt like I understood what energy this person was trying to get from me. And it wasn't the peaceful energy that I wanted to type to her. So I ended up taking a break because by that time I was shaking. I was so irritated. I was fuming because I just wanted to cuss this person out. I just wanted to cuss them out. And I was like, all right, let me take a breath. I went downstairs. I got me a root beer. I walked outside. I called my best friend and I got one of my little stadium seats and sat down in my driveway. And I basically just kikied with my best friend for like an hour. And the only thing that I could do within this hour was bitch and complain about how I couldn't be just cutthroat ruthless to this person. Because I wanted to. I wanted to read them their rights. How many of you guys have ever gotten in a situation where you're like, I just want to read, I'm just going to read you. Bump it. Let's do it. You want to come for me? I'm going to read the room. Well, I'm going to read everybody, right? That's basically what I wanted to do. And I was talking to her about it. And I was like, you know what? I was like, at the end of it all, it came down to, I was like, you know what? I was like, I am better than this. I am better than this. I am better than what this person is trying to pull out of me. And I was like, I just need to stick with what I'm doing. This person is trying to take me out of my element. And unfortunately, and look, I guess unfortunately for them, I don't go low. If that vibrational level is low, I'm not going there with you. I'm going to walk away. So what ended up happening was I get off the phone with her. Like by the time I get off the phone with her, I'm like calm, I'm relaxed. I'm like, all right. I come back up, send this email, do things, say my little piece, and I leave it at that. This person comes back with what seemed like a more aggressive email. And after that, I blocked them because I didn't care anymore. Because I realized part of my piece was being able to articulate myself in that situation in the way that I needed to, and also in a way that did not give them the exchange of power that they were looking for, or to give them ammo that they were looking for. And that was basically my whole thing. I was just like, I don't want to give them the ability to take this email and use it as some kind of like damning evidence of who I am. And now in the age of social media, you have way too many people doing that, right? So I was like, yeah, we're not going to do that either. So I get back this email. I could tell in the response to the email, like I did not get nothing that I said got through to them. Like it was almost like they seen the email and then they just responded. Like it's like reacting, or it's like listening to react. or it's like listening to talk. When you're having a conversation with somebody and you're talking, and you're giving them boom, 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 boom points, and this person comes back and all they're doing is, well, this is what happened and yada yada blah blah blah, and whatever it is that this person got stuck on within that conversation, they're stuck on that, and that's all they're throwing back at you. And you're like, did you even listen to what I said? You're hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth just so that you can respond. How about sit back, listen to what I'm actually telling you, and then respond appropriately to what I've said, not to what you think was said. And again, that goes back with that power exchange, that energy exchange of, I truly felt like this person wanted a different side of me that I was not willing to give, because that would bring my vibrations super low, which is one of the reasons why I was angry. I was angry because as much as I wanted to meet them at their level, I also had to realize that a lot of times people just want to talk to talk. People just want to get things off their chest and not actually have things resolved. And in my life, one of the things that I've decided is that I'm going to resolve the problem. I'm not here to resolve people. I'm here to resolve the problem. Whatever the problem is, let's fix that. And then let's go on about our business. And a lot of times people don't want to do that. They want to just continue to argue. They want to continue to be part of the problem. They want to blame other people, places, and things for the problem. And I tell people all the time, by you doing that, I'm going to walk away, because that does not help the situation. It actually hinders the situation. And at the end of the day, how are you going to have peace when you are still thinking about all of the negativity that is happening in that particular situation? How the people, places, and things screwed you over, and you're still angry. And I'm over here on a beach reading a book in the sun. Like, I'm doing my things. And really, it just made me realize, like, peace is definitely not I feel like peace is something that we all work for and that we strive for, but there's not enough people who are actually like practicing it in the moment. I'll give you another example. Look, another example of how I had to choose peace over violence. And I wasn't really going to choose violence. I was sad and I was upset and I wanted to be mad at the people, but I couldn't be mad at the people because it wasn't their fault. I had scheduled, or I thought I scheduled a float, or a float deprivation tank session. And the way that they had you do it, unfortunately, was through a text messenger program. And I went through all the steps, thought it was scheduled, went into the session, and it was not scheduled. And they were like, unfortunately, we're fully booked, like we can't do anything. And I had to sit back and I had to think about it for a second before I opened my mouth. And the reason was because, again, I wasn't mad at them. I was mad at the situation. So it's like, okay, well, what can we do to resolve this? And they ended up giving me they were like, we can't accommodate today. We can reschedule it. Like, we can go ahead and actually like pick a different date and schedule it. Because you were here today, we'll go ahead and give you a couple of free floats, like whatever. But I really had my heart set on this. So of course I was sad. And just like anybody else, you're allowed to be sad. And then I ate a cupcake and it was kind of okay. Like, but I say all that to say, instead of flipping out on these people who, by the way, didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. They're doing their jobs. Instead of flipping out on them, I took time to sit back and say, what is the solution to this? My temporary my temporary dissatisfaction with the situation could have been way worse. I could have taken it and blew it completely out of proportion. But instead, I chose to be peaceful about it. I chose to find a different solution. And at this point, I got free floats out of it. So what is it other than the fact that I didn't get to do this thing can I be upset about? Right? So am I still a little bit sad as I'm recording this? Just a little. I really did want to do that. I've done it before. I enjoy it very much. Um, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, I look at it this way as well. I had a podcast to record. So it was either it was either I do the float, I come home, think that I was going to do this recording, and it actually not get done. And then I spend Tuesday morning getting up early, actually doing all of the things. And I eventually was just like, yeah, I'm gonna choose not to be upset about this. I'm gonna choose not to make this a whole evening of sadness, right? I sat in the shower. And then I got out and I was like, all right, let's go ahead and record. But I say all that to say, oftentimes we see a situation that is happening around us, situations that we can't even control. And a lot of times, a lot of people decide that they want to choose more chaos. They want to cause more problems for themselves. They want to yell and scream and, do all this, huffing and puffing. And at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that in that particular day, in that particular situation, it still cannot be changed. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to make a choice to stay salty about a situation that you literally cannot change because you can't control everybody else's actions or other people, places, and things? Or are you going to sit back and say, all right, how can I make this benefit me? How can I choose peace? And really, I feel like that's really what this whole week for me has kind of been. I've decided to choose peace in a sense over the last 2 years instead of living in this world where everybody is against me, everything is against me, nobody is helping, nobody's doing this, blah, 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 blah. All these things that I could definitely say about the people around me. But at the end of the day, how do I continue forward and still be able to live my happiest, best life? I definitely can't do that dwelling on the fact that so and so didn't come to my birthday party, right? I can't do that. I mean, I can, but it doesn't really do me any good. It doesn't go into that peaceful mentality, that joyous life, that happiness that I'm looking for. It doesn't belong there. So I say to you, when you're looking at your life, when you're going through the things that you're going through, are you going to continue to choose chaos? The things that you can't control, you're going to continue to be upset about those things, or are you going to choose peace and change what you're doing, change your choices and your decisions to mold the world around you? I don't know, guys. Personally, I'm choosing peace every single time. I sleep a little bit better just knowing that. So we're gonna go ahead and do the Trinity. And first I'm gonna talk about my brag because although I've been talking about it throughout this podcast, I really wanted to make sure that we highlight this part of the Trinity. But I finished the third draft of my book. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, I have been writing a book for the past 14 months. And the third draft is finally done. And on my birthday at like 2, well, technically I was done at 2 a.m. and I think I sent it out to my readers at like 10:30 on my birthday. But my beta readers got my second book so that they can read it, give me their feedback, all of that wonderfulness. I'm so excited to have this out for so many reasons. One, it was a labor of love I literally put the outline to this book out in one weekend. It was a 4-day weekend. Um, and over the last 14 months, I have basically just been adding things, taking things out, doing all of the stuff with this book. And now it's finally done. So I'm super excited about that. My first book took me 6 years to write, and that's because it was so heavy. And I stopped and started it. And at some point, I wasn't sure if I was going to finish it or if I wanted to finish it or if I even wanted it to go out. And then at the time where I was getting ready to publish it, I was like, oh, I don't want to have to edit this. So I didn't, and I just put it out. So my first book is not all that great of I personally don't think it's that great of writing. But I'm very straightforward and just like pew pew pew. So that book, although it took me 6 years, it is not very polished. Um, but I'm super excited that my second book is done. It has been a long time coming. I did not even know that I was going to be writing a book. So there's that. So that is my brag for this episode of the podcast. Um, what I'm grateful for, you know, what, I'm. It's so funny because as I continue to do these over the weeks, and I'm pulling from my own experiences and from my own life, you guys are going to get a lot of the same like things that I'm grateful for and the things that I desire. And if you know anything about gratitude, it doesn't matter what it is that you are saying that you're grateful for, as long as you are grateful for it. So today I want to shout out that I am grateful for my boyfriend and his amazingness. Because when I tell you that he went and made my birthday weekend so special for me, I cannot thank him enough. He got a Facebook post. He got all the thank yous over the weekend. Like I don't think there was any time that I like didn't think like if there was a lull in a conversation, I was just like, thank you so much. Um, I'm sure at this point he's probably tired of hearing about it. But me personally, I'm just like, you made my birthday so special. And for me to personally think that my birthday is a holiday, like literally, like no, for real. Like, thank you so much for making my birthday so very special. And being able to just spend that time with him over this past weekend was just amazing. So yeah, that's what I'm grateful for. He is the bee's knees. He knows that he's the bee's knees, and he's going to hear this podcast and think, "Oh yeah," and or he's probably hiding out while I'm, recording this podcast, listening to me talk about him and all of the glory and things. I'm gonna have to go deflate his head when I'm done. Um, and then a desire that I have. I think at this point, one of my biggest desires is growing my podcast. I feel like I have been putting out really good information and really good content that can help a lot of people in their situations, whether it's them just beginning on their journey or whether they've been on their journey and they've come to a standstill in their growth, or what they may see as a standstill in their growth. Um, and are looking for the next steps. And I really want my podcast to reach people who are looking to grow, who are seeing the changes that they're making in their life and want to do more. So what I would love for you to do is if you loved anything in this podcast episode, or if you're listening to other podcast episodes of mine, which usually what I do is I listen to a new podcast, I go to the beginning and I listen to it all the way through. If that's something that you've done and you've gotten to this point and have not yet shared a podcast episode, I want you to think about one of the podcast episodes that you liked, or maybe even this one, and share it with somebody that you know that may need this message, may need just a little pick me up or something. Go ahead and share this with them. So that, they can like and share and follow the podcast. Because I feel like over the next over the next few months, things are going to be getting kind of interesting on the podcast. So I'm excited. And honestly, I hope that you are too, for the people who are listening. I do want to thank everybody who does listen. I know sometimes, listening, I love listening to podcasts on my way to work. So it's always nice to be able to also sit down for an hour and talk, knowing dang well I should probably, either be doing something else or, I mean, I feel like it's funny because the reason why I started a podcast is because I like to talk, and I feel like podcasts are the place to do that. So yeah, just if you like this episode or any of the other episodes, please share them with your friends and family and people that you know. That's the way that I grow. That's the way my channel grows. And yeah, that's all I got. It's all I got. It is not quite time for bedtime, but it's getting close. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get me a snack. I'm gonna go relax for the next like half hour, 45 minutes. Um, and yeah, I'll see you guys next week. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in to Dear Tay, You Got This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, join our mailing list, and share it with someone ready for transformation. Stay connected with us on TikTok at Phoenix of Change, and catch our episodes on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, one new habit is all you need to seek growth and transformation in your life. What will your new habit be? A big thank you to our amazing listeners and to Chakra Wonders for their support. Until next time, keep evolving and embracing change.